So we've been talking about Wake Up Dead Men and what makes art Christian or Christian. In the second part of this sort of series, we were talking about what we lose when we just label things Christian or not Christian. I have a question for you, Josh,
I'm buckling up.
When you're thinking about discipleship specifically, and what your idea of like what we do is supposed to help discipleship, what are some of the things that you think of like, these are things, not that the church is always doing badly and we're not like just trying to poo-poo on the church. We could always do that. Everybody can do that. It's very easy. We're a bunch of sinful people. But how do you think of like, this is different from what's available for these reasons?
Yeah, great question. Have I told the story yet on this about the student I talked to after one of my teaching sessions at a youth group about Attack on Titan?
Briefly. But
okay.
You can go. You know, some people skip episodes. Go for it.
For sure. I'll kind of fast paraphrase it. Basically, I was doing a 3-part series on worship at a local youth group that I'm connected to. And in the first session, I was talking about how one of the things I've seen happen in not just my life, but in family members' lives and in other people's lives is that there's this narrative or story or way of meeting us personally that God does. And so for me, especially just with what I feel like I'm praying is the clarity to know that my calling is something around media, something around storytelling, something around art, just because it's kind of who God's made me to be, that I used the story of me when I was in college, just having a whole crazy journey of getting dropped because of my grades, trying to be an engineer, God kind of putting on blast in my own heart that I was just making a future decision based around money and what I thought would be secure versus like who he actually designed me to be. And the thing that was the linchpin moment was the show Attack on Titan, which is why I'm always talking about it. And I've got a tattoo of it. Is like, that was the weird fire in the bush, stone in the river, parting the Red Sea. Like that was a moment for me personally, like a one-on-one God meeting me there. And so I was talking about what a cool and weird way that God would meet me in a hard season and give me what I felt like was one of the clearest answers I've ever been given through this like really crazy, intense, violent, bloody show about like, swords and giant human eating creatures.
People flying around with blades.
Oh, dude, it's wild. That show's wild.
If you haven't seen it,
awesome.
I'm just saying.
Dude,
it also, because it has a lot of questions about truth and what is truth and
buddy,
power.
We can
go ahead.
Before I die, I'm writing a whole class that I want to teach at like a college or something on that class. Anyway, and so the third night, we did some practice as a group where I had the students basically watch a couple movie clips and they had to pair them to some Bible passages that they had to read before. And they basically had to kind of wrestle with like, oh, I'm seeing like biblical ideas play out in these different shows. And like one of them was Attack on Titan, which is like one of the scenes that like brings me to tears. And it's because it's this beautiful representation of what I feel like it looks like when Jesus calls us and says it's going to be a hard journey. So in the show, I'm just going to geek out for a little bit. In the show, there's these 3 armies. They're waging war against these creatures called Titans that are breaking in and healing or eating people. No one really knows why. That's part of the mystery of the show. And so these young kids are trying, they're overrun and they're trying to make this decision of like which of these battle units to join. And so there's 3 options. One of the options, they just watch the walls. It's pretty safe. One of them is for the military police, which is like in the innermost part of the city. It's like the cushiest of the cushy. There's comments that are made that basically the best fighters are the ones, like people want to be the best fighters and the best students because they get to go be safe. And then there's the third, which is my favorite. It's called the Scouts. And the Scouts die. That like one of the opening scenes of the show is them coming back in the very beginning and they're seeing the carnage of the scout units going out and trying to figure out what the heck is going on in the world and how they can fix it and how they can help. So there's this moment, all the students who are graduating and making the decision and all the different generals of the 3 different units come up on stage and they give their pitch. Join the military ranks, join the military police, join the garrison. And then the last one is Erwin, and he's the leader of the Scouts. And he basically gives them this blanket, you're gonna die. Of the Scouts that have joined us, 65% of them are dead. The math, looking at all of you, look around you, that's how many of you are going to live, blah, blah, blah. And he just gives this really bleak picture of what it means to join this unit, because it's going to be dangerous. It's not probably going to end well mathematically, but if you do, you are going to be a part of the greatest military unit that it's going to accomplish saving humanity. And one of the guys is like, dude, stop framing it that way. Like, no one's going to join us. And so there's this moment that is just chilling, where all of the scouts, or like not the scouts, but all of the students are in this big arena, and we see all of them that are there. And he basically says, like, if you're going to stay, stay. If you don't want to stay, go. 90%. Like, you're watching all the core characters of the show are watching all of their comrades turning around and leaving. And some of them are standing there and they're like, I saw what happened. I saw the carnage. I saw the death. I saw the destruction. I don't want to do this. 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 But they stay. And there's this shot of like what used to be a full arena, which is now completely empty, save for like 15 people. And they're all standing there and they're like, this is it. Like, this is our squad. And so for me, I was just like, oh, like I'm talking to them about like, this is such a profound visual to see the call of Christ when he tells us, like, count the cost. It's not going to be easy. Are you willing to build and pursue building something, but then, have the danger of like getting most of the way done and not finishing, and people laughing at you because they see what you tried to do and that you didn't do it. And so we were talking about that, and I had this student come up afterwards and he was like, sorry, long-winded. That was for the Instagrams to speak about Attack on Titan. But what was powerful to me and what was really cool is I had a student who came up afterwards and he was like, hey, should I watch Attack on Titan? And of course, me being the passionate person that I am, and that it's like a story that's really meaningful to me, you want to say yes, like it's awesome, you're going to love it, it's super cool, like the mystery, the intrigue, the action, the animation, like you want to geek out about that stuff. But in the moment, I felt like God kind of gave me a couple questions that I asked him. And I feel like this is the actual answer to your question. So if you wanted to, sorry for everyone who stuck around to get to this one. But the discipleship side of media, and I think what we're doing is this. So I asked him first, I said, in your family, do you have the freedom to make a decision to watch this show by yourself? And he was like, yes. And I said, do you have any sort of aversion or sensitivity to action, to violence, to like gore, stuff like that? No, I'm pretty, I've seen some actiony stuff, like doesn't bother me. And then I said, I think I asked him a third question that was essentially like, how do you, like, what does your personal spiritual state look like? Like, are you in the Word? Are you in community? Are you talking? Oh, that was the question, is, do you feel you trust yourself to talk to other people about the things that you're seeing and to process the parts of the story that are gripping and challenging and hard to wrestle with? Because there's a lot going on in just like the themes and the stuff of the show. And he was like, yeah, just kind of like nodded. And I was like, well, those are your answers. I think you can safely probably watch this show and engage it in a critical way that is going to make it enjoyable, but also something that is deeply challenging and makes you wrestle with it. And to me, I think that is the side of discipleship when it comes to how we talk to kids about their decisions around media. Is I think there's probably room for even some discernment from older believers, like thinking of us, to even create like wider spectrums of questions and different things to think about. But I think just that idea that like, I didn't give him a blanket yes or no. No, you're too young. Don't watch it. No, it's awesome. It's the greatest thing you'll ever watch. Do it. Mm-hmm. Like, it wasn't this complete yes or no. It was asking very critical things of like, dude, I'm not going to tell you to watch this show if your family is like a hyper conservative, we only watch VeggieTales in this house. Like, I'm going to get you grounded. Like, I don't want that. But if he has some of the freedom to watch some of those things and to like engage them, like, yeah, like there's worse things I could could think of that I would not want you spending your time on. And I think this has some depth to it. I think then the other question too of, do you trust yourself to actually process and talk about it? I think that's another thing is like, if we're not actually coaching our young people in our churches to think and to share with each other what they're engaging with, like that to me is a pivotal time to, yes, be encouraging to think about what they're doing. But I feel like the truth that, sorry, I'm like all over the rails. I feel like something that just came to mind is when I think of who I was as a high school kid, I was absolutely watching stuff that my parents would have been appalled by, right? Mm-hmm. Like my brother and I would stay up on a Friday night and we would be, you know, he was like 8th grade, a freshman. I was like a junior or senior. And we'd be watching Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood and like, you know, the gore fest and the dark imagery that show is. But like we'd talk about it and we loved it. And like for him and I, like that was the thing we bonded over. Or I remember there was like a stretch where I was homesick. And so I was watching like the Punisher movie, like you know, not
the old one.
The old one.
Not the Netflix one.
Not the Netflix one. But the Thomas Jane one. And like that was one of my first experiences of the Punisher, who's one of my favorite characters, and kind of that being a formative moment of wrestling with, wow, this is a character where I'm seeing this battle of morality and this like this person who's like, I have been done such an injustice and no one is fixing it, so I'm going to fix it myself. But then the methods and the ways and, you know, like the problematic ways that he does all that. Mm-hmm. And so I think to be truthful in discipleship with our youth is it's like, especially now, dog, like they're watching stuff that they shouldn't be watching. Like my 7th grade cousin, like has seen the video of Charlie Kirk getting shot because it was on the bus. I haven't even seen that. And so if we're going to pretend that kids are not seeing things, whether like way above their pay grade or way below or kind of somewhere in, you know, like a weird spot, I feel like we're being really disingenuous. And so with that, we have to ask a question. Do we want to go into hyper police scared Christian mode, which we've seen that hasn't gone super well with the whole satanic panic era of Christianity? Or do we start having some of those conversations and practices in our families and in our circles to say, can I train you that even before that gets shown to you, you and your gut know and are confident to tell your friend or to this random person on the bus or this random kid on the bus or whatever, no, I'm not engaging with that. Like, that's not cool. Don't do that. Right. And not to be like, oh, is your parents like going to be mad? It's like, no, I'm going to be mad. I don't want to see that. I don't need to see that. And so I think we have a huge space as the church, I think, to shepherd the younger generation, who is one of the most media saturated generations to date, by helping them engage the stuff that they're engaging with critically. Because if we go into hyper police mode, we're just going to relive all the problems and bad theology and, frankly, destruction of the satanic panic Christianity. And then on top of it, I think we miss out on, to your point in the previous episode, the joy of getting to see our young people build the muscle of discipleship, so that by the time they go to college, they're like, wow, I've learned a lot about what I should and should not be engaging with. Right. Not just for the sake of checking the Christian box to feel holy and like I'm doing the right thing, but because I want to honor God with the mind and the soul and the spirit and the temperament and the personality that he's given me. And I want to steward that well. And to me, that's very different than just being like, you can't watch action movies because they're too violent. So, man, my long-winded super answer, but there you go.
No, I think it's great. I think that's one of the things that there's a passion for in what we do. And if you want to support us, please support us. There's a passion for what we do in. I want to see more people who are my age who, like, quote unquote, overthink what they consume. Yeah. Right? Like, I know so many people, and I hate to do this because I know it's ostracizes some people and makes them feel bad, but who just believe political talking points because of their parents.
Yeah.
Or for their political expediency, or the philosophy that is good when you've prioritized national dominance and national security over a Christ-centered, like, sacrificial leadership in your value system. A lot of things like make sense if you are Republican. If you're just trying to figure out, like, how do I build a strong country? Like, it makes perfect sense. There's no, like, question or argument. We do this, you don't do this. Easy. Boom. Done. What do you do? What do you do when that comes against your faith example in Christ? Mm-hmm. Where he's like, you know what I'm going to do as the strongest person in the entire universe, as God incarnate? What I'm going to do, I'm going to make stuff out of dead trees mm-hmm. and then do that for, a decade or so. And then I'm going to be a vagrant and walk around and bum off of people and tell them about the God who they should know and serve and who I am and what I represent and how that should be the order of their life and that everything is worth giving that up. That does not come when I worry about dollars and cents in a trade war. Like, I'm not thinking of Christ's sacrifice. I'm not thinking of the relationships I can build. I'm thinking of how do I protect what's mine. As you talked about with Black Panther and the idea of Wakanda as a fictional country having to make this question, it's the question we all have of how much of myself do I give before it's too much?
Yep.
Wakabi says it to T'Challa. He says, like, if we open ourselves to the rest of the world, we bring the problems in with us, mm-hmm. like with them. And yeah, that's what happens when you become a parent, when you become a spouse. Mm-hmm. You have a trade deficit of, like, I need to take you on. Now, on the other side, if you are a Democrat, there's a lot of things about, like, kindness and love and care and compassion. That's all great. When you get to a point of a battle, when there is a point where there's a battle, there better be enough of you bonded arm in arm, willing to die for each other and not willing to police each other over which words you use to describe mm-hmm. things, right? It's really hard to convince somebody in that fight that they should speak to you a specific way when they have bullet holes in their body or are missing body parts because mm-hmm. they died for your right to yell at them, right? And it's really, really hard for you to be mad at a person who is doing the actual work at all of the charities that you don't go to because they're on the wrong side of town and that's not safe because they do drugs over there. Like, it's a thing. You can fall off the narrow path to the right or to the left. Mm-hmm. It's not this thing that's easy. And discipling children to go, hey, do you think you should be on your phone that much? And for them to go, never thought about that. I should ask myself. I should actually think through this and figure this out. Hey, do you think that your kids should be watching that much TV? Instead of feeling guilty about it or bad about it, I should just mm-hmm. ask myself, like, does that work for our family? Are my children doing that? Hey, are your kids eating that? It's like, well, before I feel guilty, I should be like, are my kids behaving badly when they eat this stuff? Mm-hmm. Am I an attentive parent or am I too busy? There are a lot of men who, for serving the church as much as they want to serve, forget their children. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of women who, in service of their children, forget their neighbor. There's a lot of friends who, in service of friends who are more fun, forget the friends who are struggling. There are a lot of people who are married who forget their single friends. There are a lot of people with money who forget their friends without money. Like, if you don't slow down, which is what we're trying to say, like, you got to slow down. Once you see a movie, a TV show, and hopefully eventually when you see like 15 shorts, you slow down and go, what did I just consume? Mm-hmm. What is actually true about this? So part of this is me also saying, like, I am working on, like, this model of what we think an order to engage stuff will be at different age ranges. And then we'll talk through this with some friends who are experts in actual psychology and psychiatry, some actual pastors, to be like, hey, is this good terminology and are these scripture passages supporting these and not just eisegetical, but are they actually exegetical? But trying to build that model because it's so important that the future generation is not one that is emboldened with right and wrong answers. But to Josh's point, like they have the tools to go, I know the questions and I have the tools to try to work with the answers. And I'm humble enough to work with other believers and the way they have their methods to figure this stuff out together. Mm-hmm. And that unity we have of, because of the kingship of Christ, this is the process we go through.
Yeah.
Like, even if it's slower than your AI driven process, we are going to do it because it bonds us. We have to argue and fight and heal and reconcile and share with each other in a way that you don't have to. You just to label things good and bad and cut them off. Yeah, it's hard. If you're a family that eats super, super unhealthy, it's hard to be friends with a family that eats really, really healthy. If you're a family that likes a whole lot of hip hop, it's really hard to be friends with a family who likes a whole lot of country. But in Christ,
listen to Little Nas X.
Yeah, pray for Little Nas X.
Yeah.
But in Christ, that should be a closer bond. Mm-hmm. The hip hop family and the country family should be closer together than a Christian Republican and a non-Christian Republican, a Christian Democrat and non-Christian Democrat.
Yeah.
And we don't show it, and therefore, according to John 17 in the prayer, like that Jesus says, our unity is something that people will look at and go, okay, maybe this Jesus thing is true. Mm-hmm. If these people who disagree about this stuff, like, still show up to each other's barbecues and houses and hospital rooms and court hearings and garage sales and sleep at each other's houses, and they're not the same. It's easy when they all look the same.
Right.
It's easy when you all look and think and do everything the same. Campus ministry, love it. Also, like attracts like. It's real hard when you look different to go like, I gotta push through all this stuff. When you sound different, to push through all that stuff. And what it shows other people is like, okay, maybe he doesn't believe it in the way that I thought, and maybe I should ask another question. Maybe this is worth it.
Yeah.
You know.
No, I think a thought that came to mind as you were sharing is, I feel like we're at a really critical juncture with a lot of our youth, and I honestly feel like with our adults too, where we have a tendency in adult world, I think, to be so focused on larger scale things like politics, like cultural shifts and stuff like that, that we're not actually taking the time, like you said, to slow down and to look at what are the needs that are not being met that maybe aren't as glamorous to meet. Like our young people, who I feel like their battle right now is overstimulation, being over inundated with information, and just having too many answers to questions. And like, I think even when we were probably growing up, you and I are a little bit apart in age, but we probably had a similar experience in terms of, like, I was just talking to someone about this. There still were only so many answers you could get to things, it felt like. Where it was like, yeah, you had to think a lot.
Figure some stuff out.
Right. And even if you got some of these like limited answers, some of them weren't very good. And you were like, well, I don't really know what to do with this now. Like, I just kind of got to sort it out and filter my experience in there and like pray about it and all this stuff. But now with social media and internet culture and stuff like that, you've got this even higher level of answers, many of which are not good or are contextually nuanced, where it's like, now you've got this person's platform is a Christian platform, but they're dunking on this Christian that isn't Christian enough, and that Christian's platform is dunking on this Christian over, and it's just like this weird web of like, why are we doing this, and what are we talking about, and what are actually our students questioning, and how could I give them the tools and the questions and the disciplines to be discipled to not feel like that's the outlet that they need to go to. Because that I think is the thing that's on my heart for them is, like I've even fallen. I say this from a place of admittance. Like I've absolutely been one of those guys who fell for the glamorous idea of the pristine, hyper efficient life, or like the idea of like, you're worth what you're worth and don't take any less, and all the things that feed the ego with different people like that are giving answers of how to be successful and the shortcuts to get there. And so if we're even susceptible to that kind of stuff, then we need to be really extra careful, I feel like, in us as adults and encouraging our youth to think about how do you protect yourself from being susceptible to everything and anything. Mm-hmm. And
one of the number one ways is to slow down.
Yeah, 100%.
If people can tell you something, you immediately do it, right? And they're not somebody who's been given good authority over you. You should question that and be like, hold on, why do I want to jump when this person speaks?
Yeah.
To your point about helping kids, like there's some things that are adult things that I don't think people know of what to do. What is the proper way to leave a church when you disagree with the direction of the church, but the church is not outright sinful,
heretical or something? Yeah.
Right. Like how do you know what to do? What do you say? Do you write a letter? Do you not write a letter? Do you talk about it from your perspective? Do you talk about what you think the damage that they're doing? Like there's not a path there. That's probably really helpful for a lot of people, because leaving a church because you're moving, pretty easy. I'm not going to be here. Leaving a church to go to a church in the same city where you're going to see people still, that's a little harder. Mm-hmm. Leaving a church because you had church hurt, or leaving a church because you thought that the church ignored you, or the church didn't listen to you in your time of need. And that's different from leaving a church because they didn't do what you said.
Right.
Right. If you leave a church because they didn't make you happy and they didn't fix all your problems, like, that's
different issue.
That's a different issue. Yeah. So like that's an area of discipleship.
Yeah.
What do you do when you're friends with somebody who's divorced?
Mm-hmm.
What do you do when you're friends with somebody who's remarried, and potentially some people don't believe in remarriage, right? In biblical remarriage. What do you do when your friends are asking for money, but you see them waste money somewhere else? Right? Like, what do you do in those situations? What's the discipleship there? That's not a really good Sunday class that everybody wants to sign up for.
Right.
Right? Parenting matters. Yes, please give me all the parenting tips. Well, all families are different.
Yeah.
And luckily there's good parenting classes that say that. But, I think that the core element, like the snippet that you could clip and put in, is one of the best skills we have to combat the danger of the modern movement towards speed, and that speed leading to other forms of anxiety, etc., is to make people slow down. And if we can get people to slow down, well, what it does for them is it gives them the practice that is applicable in all the aspects of their life, their relationships, their work, their church life. And it allows that slowness to be very countercultural to speed.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, John Mark Comer, I know, has been talking about it. I feel like there is a lot of people who are starting to pick it up. I think we just haven't been willing to face that is potentially the cultural idol of our time. And
like
it's an idol,
and efficiency.
And that's an idol that I think Christians in America are more comfortable with than they should be.
Yeah. I'm going to quote myself here, but good friendship is inefficient.
Oof. Put
good
that on a
t-shirt.
t-shirt.
Is inefficient.
That's good.
Yeah, I think that the investment of time is what we're afraid of, because we know we don't have a lot of it.
Yeah.
The investment of time is what we're afraid of because we don't have a lot of it. And it makes it really easy to cut people off when most people need Jesus to sit with them in the middle of the day in the hot well and call them out, but say that he is the living water.
Yeah.
That they can drink from and never go thirsty again.
Or I'd say even the lack of time, but also the selfishness that we want to filter everyone through. But I mean, I feel like we've talked about this a little bit, but I feel like this is a whole component of media consumption too that we could dive into on another episode, not today, but just media consumption as a way of engaging each other. You know, like if I know that there's a movie or a show that you love, how could that actually be something beautiful if I take the time to enjoy something that you enjoy, and then that becomes something that we can relate and connect over, versus me being like, well, you know, I'm an anime guy and Femi's not really into that. So like, you know, Femi will go off and find his SVU peeps and talk to them about, you know, episodes and yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, but yeah, I think there's an element of speed. I think there's an element of selflessness, and just like, how do we see the passions and the things in others that they love, and then encourage each other through discipleship, through practicing, engaging things for the sake of others, to create deeper relationships that point to what you said, which is God. People will know God's love is real by how we love each other. And these are some options, some ways to start. Give it a shot. So,
yeah, I think we can wrap this one up.
Totally.
And then we'll see if we can like marathon too. We'll just keep going and give people the stuff they love.
There you go.
But yeah, great point. This episode was produced by Josh Erickson, Josh Cook, and Femi Shokoya, and edited by Josh Erickson. Our social media producer is Colton Mefford. We are currently self-supported. You can check out short stories, merch, and highlighted creators at parablearrows.com. You can also find us on Instagram and TikTok at Parable Arrows, or support us on Patreon. Thank you for listening to the Parable Arrows podcast. Think, move in faithfulness, and trust God. Pull back, aim high, let it fly.